Subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions or subordinators are words that join different clauses into complex sentences. For example, we carried our raincoats. It was cloudy. Here, we can see two independent sentences that are related. Now, look at this sentence. We carried our raincoats since it was cloudy. Here, the above two sentences are connected by a subordinating conjunction since. The clause that is attached to a subordinating conjunction is called a dependent or subordinate clause. Remember that a subordinating conjunction begins a dependent clause and connects it to the independent clause. A dependent clause has a subject and its own predicate, but it depends on the independent clause for its complete meaning. The following words are called subordinating conjunctions. They have been listed alongside their categories.
Subordinating conjunctions. Yes, like although, unless, even though, even if, as long as, and because. So let's get started. So, what is a conjunction? Well, a conjunction is a joiner, a word that connects parts of a sentence. There are three types of conjunctions: coordinating, subordinating, and correlative. Today we're going to look at the subordinating conjunctions, also called subordinate conjunctions. So what do subordinating conjunctions do? They join dependent clauses to independent ones. So, for example, a C for subordinating conjunction plus dependent clause, comma, plus independent clause. Or it could be independent clause plus subordinating conjunction plus dependent clause. Please notice that the subordinating conjunction goes before the dependent clause. So things to remember. You cannot have a subordinating clause without an independent clause, that is your main clause. Your sentence wouldn't be complete and your reader will be wondering what happened. So let's list some subordinating conjunctions. Because, even though, although, unless, as long as, even if, when, before, after, how, by the time, if, so, while, as, etc., etc. Let's organize them by categories. So the first one, time, after, as soon as, until, whenever. Comparison, rather than, whether. Concession, though, although, even though. Relative pronouns, who, whoever, whose, whom. Condition, if, only if, unless, provided that. Reason, because, since, so that, in order to. Relative adjectives, that, whatever, which. Manner, how, as though, as if. Place, where, and wherever. Obviously, there are many others, but these ones are the most common ones. So let's look at some examples of reason category. Since we've got a few minutes to wait for the train, let's have a cup of coffee. So you can see that we have the subordinating conjunction right before the dependent clause. Then we need a comma and then an independent clause. Another example. I love Van Gogh's art because he uses color so brilliantly. So here we have the independent clause plus the subordinating conjunction and then the dependent clause. So let's look at concession examples. Though it was raining, she went out. So we have the subordinating conjunction plus the dependent clause, then we have a comma, and then we have the independent clause. She went out. He lives in a small house, even though he's a millionaire. So we have the independent clause first, then we have the subordinating conjunction, which is even though, and then we have the dependent clause. So let's take a look at common mistakes. Major ideas belong in main clauses, not in the